One of the most mysterious issues facing the Islamic nation in this historical period is the issue of Libya. The truth is that the situation in Libya is unknown to many people and many Muslims. It is unknown even to some Muslims living in Libya, whether Libyans or non-Libyans living in this great country. This ambiguity is due to several reasons. First, the lack of information available. I do not know why the issue has not received attention, whether at the level of the Arab media or the international media. News about it is rare and few and always ambiguous and not clear. The second point is the large number of conflicting parties and thus the large number of visions. When you read analyses from one party and analyses from another party, it remains contradictory and contradictory. The information in front of you may not accept as documented. The third need is for external parties to intervene with their own interests, whether they are regional parties in Africa around Libya, or was it a significant global influential force, whether it is America, Russia, the European Union, or other world powers. The story began in Libya after the revolution against Gaddafi, which was in February 2011, the fall of Gaddafi's regime, and Libya entered a dark tunnel of internal conflicts. Of course, with the help of this and his encouragement and the abundance of weapons found in Libya, the nature of Libya was such that there were many weapons and thus militias were formed, different. They struggled with each other, plus the presence of the Libyan army in the first place. Conflicts occurred, and of course the fragile security situation that exists in Libya and the vast desert areas and the openness to African countries in the south left organizations from outside Libya entering Libya under different circumstances, and thus conflicts increased, in addition to African mercenaries who fight for wages. Of course, this did something difficult in the Libyan file. The conflict in Libya ended early. To our regrettable, the country was divided into two governments. A government that we do not call the Eastern Camp, for example, governs Eastern Libya with its center in Benghazi. The government is headed by Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar and with him a special council of representatives for this section of Libya. This section is the western border of Egypt, and therefore Egypt considers this place a very, very dangerous security area. For Egypt, Egypt of course means the unity of Libya, the stability of Libya, and the unity of Libya. That gives strong support for security in the region, and this is in the interest of Egypt, the interest of Libya, the interest of Arabs and Muslims, and every interest. But at the same time, it cares about national security. If the matter does not continue to reach an agreement, it cares about this eastern region in Libya. It does not accept terrorist leaks. It does not accept illegal smuggling of goods. It does not accept anything that could harm the interest of national security. That's why Egypt is involved in it. This part supports this part until an agreement is reached between the two parties. Of course, Egypt clearly declares that it wants unity between the two parties, but on the ground, the reality so far has not been checked, and therefore it means that in this case, the support for the eastern section, and Egyptian President Sisi set a red line between Sirte and the desert. He said that this is a line that is not allowed to be crossed from the western side. Why? Because this threatens Egypt's national security. In alternatives to the eastern camp, the western camp, the centers of Tripoli, which is the government recognized internationally and in the United Nations, headed by a National Accord Council headed by Abdul Hamid al-Dabaiba, along with a number of military militias that do not have a unified army. Different military militias, and therefore the visions between them are different, and sometimes the interests in the same western section collide with each other, far from being in conflict at all. With the eastern section, this is what produces some conflicts like the ones we saw recently, brother, on May 12th, the conflict that took place in Tripoli, and the assaults, the killing, the blood, and the great personality who died, and all of this is internal divisions in the western section. And of course, what does this mean as a big problem? Mark, this entire western section is the border of Algeria and Tunisia. But it is most important for Algeria. Algeria also considers this a vital and dangerous security area for me, Algeria, and therefore it supports this section. The West protects its security, the nationalist. The complex problem in Libya is represented by several things. First, the military balance. This is a problem. There is no party significantly stronger than the other to resolve the conflict. The eastern section is almost the same as the western section in terms of military capabilities and energies, popularity, diplomacy, etc. As the two races are at a similar level, no one has known how to resolve the conflict for many years. Military equilibrium is the second factor. What diplomacy and the national in general? I have regional powers, meaning we have Egypt with the eastern side, Algeria with the western side, and the two largest Arab armies with Saudi Arabia, and of course they are the two most powerful armies in Africa. You are also talking about regional balance in the region, and of course Egypt has good relations with Algeria. Libya is at the beginning of states, and therefore it has an unstable balance. Each party is also unable to resolve the conflict for me. The third point that is also dangerous is the military balance at the global level in Libya. What does it mean at the global level? This means that the global powers are also balanced inside Libya. America supports the western part, supports Tripoli and the Tripoli government, and wants to work like a security training for the military forces present in Tripoli, and wants to work like a base present in the West. All of this means a part as well. The international community is important, and the eastern side is supported by Russia. You have a balance between America and Russia, and there may be negotiations on the Libya card outside. Originally, the Libya issue, meaning, for example, special to Ukraine, special to rare metals, special to China, especially so between America and Russia. So the Libya card remains in the negotiations, and therefore no one is also able to resolve the issue in this story, a European Union with Libya's unity, because the division of Libya and the unrest in Libya. Could it affect me? Many matters concern Europe, such as the issue of, for example, illegal immigration that comes from Libya, such as the issue of smuggling, such as the issue of reaching the African depths. Because Libya is the link between the Mediterranean Sea, that is Europe, and the many countries that follow it, and the African depths, which are the countries south of Libya, which are most of the countries in central Libya, which are the modern countries whose outlet is from Libya, and therefore its relationship is good with Libya, and it had very strong relations with Gaddafi, and therefore Europe wants this region to be stable, to preserve its interests in the region. Check light. The teams have come up with a very strange solution, but so far it's working. This strange solution is to share Libya's economic capabilities. Of course, it is a strange thing that you have two conflicting departments and yet agree with the two departments of your countries that the financial sources that come out of Libya's national product are divided between them with one budget. This means that the two workers work on a unified budget. The money is divided among them, and therefore there are two bodies in Libya that act like neutrality, the central bank. The National Oil Corporation, NOC, divides the output that comes to them into the eastern and western parts, and therefore the topic is lengthy in this picture, the possible paths. In light of this entanglement, the first path is the path of unity. And of course, this is the greatest ambition for Muslims, Arabs, and even regional countries, Egypt, Algeria, and others. And this is also America's desire. Yes, there will remain unity for all of Libya against each other, not divided. But of course, America wants unity under its hegemony, not under it. The dominance of any other power. And the European Union also wants this. The unity, with all the difficulties that we are talking about, this is the first option or the first path. The second path, the path of the Federal Union, and this is unfortunately closer to reality than the path of unity. What does the Federal Union mean? This means that there will remain two separate governments, but they will be united by one structure. And why does this one structure have one army and one international representation? But on the ground, it has two separate governments with two budgets and one job. It means semi-independence specific to each unit. In the end, they are grouped under one flag, under one representation, and under a state budget. In general, one means something similar to. The UAE system or the German system and even America itself, no, this federal system has governments. It is possible that each state has its own provisions and its own laws, but in the end they are united by one state. This is the second choice or the second path, and the third path, the path of division, which is of course worse. The paths, but unfortunately its possibilities exist, especially when you go back to history. You will find that Libya was not known in this unified form until the year 1951. Before that, there were divisions specific to the tribes. Each region had its own leadership over the past centuries, and thus the unified form of modern Libya. We did not see this until 1951, and therefore the issue of division arises if it is with the bad choice. Of course, we are with the complete unity of the land of Libya, whether the complete unity is in which there is no kind of unity. Differences, or if the federal union does not remain, which also brings together Libyans, injects blood and preserves the Libyan people's capabilities. Of course, this is not easy. It requires concrete efforts from the Libyan people, from the various symbols of the Libyan people, as well as from the regional powers, Egypt, Algeria, and others. From countries interested in the issue, the League of Arab States, the African Union, and those interested in this issue, there are very many efforts, and there will be some concessions in order for us to reach this unity.